Life is always hard. Life is amazing and incredible, and there's so many good things, but life is still hard.
Keri Glassman!
Keri Glassman, welcome.
Keri Glassman. Hi, Keri.
You're always working on yourself. You're always evolving. You're always growing. There's always good days and there's always bad days. And this is 2002 when I first started my private practice. I was pregnant with my son. I always had this entrepreneurial mindset. I created this binder literally because you don't learn in school how to really coach, how to counsel, how you do your marketing. I didn't know anything about building a business. No matter whether you want the divorce or you don't want a divorce, it's still something that is ending. It's still something to grieve. Time, emotional energy, finances. I mean, there's so many things that weigh on you, right? So it's a big storm. I have to take care of my kids. I have to take care of my business. And people put a lot of weight of this, I gotta get through this, and then it's all gonna be great. And then it's sort of, they get through it, and then they're not necessarily in that beautiful next chapter, because again, life is still life. I don't think I took the time to take care of myself during that time at all. It was just like kids and then work, and that's it.
Survival. You had to. Hi, Keri. Welcome to All Over Again podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so happy to be here finally. I feel like we've been talking about doing this for a long time. We hadn't gotten it together. We are finally doing it, and it's just such an honor to be here. And I'm so happy for you and all the success you're having with this podcast and with so many other things. And I'm just so happy to be here and to see you in real life.
Thank you. I'm honored that you're here. So with that, let's dive in. Let's talk about you. I know that there's a lot more, and we're going to talk about some of these things that you don't share so publicly, which I appreciate that you're going to delve into a bit more. But I also love so much that you're type A, also comfortable with change, and that you are not as wrapped up in controlling, because I am the first two.
Right.
I feel like when things are too uncontrollable, I always feel like, oh my gosh, if I do things to the best of my ability, they'll always work out, and I don't have to worry so much about it. It's like, oh, by virtue of the process, I'm controlling it in my way. But when it doesn't, that trips me up. So that's interesting to me that you can be comfortable with change and also comfortable with not controlling things. Is that something that was a learned trait, or is that something that you've always had?
It's funny because I definitely didn't intentionally work on becoming comfortable with change and becoming comfortable with the unknown. I think whether or not it's just innate or I learned to be that way without even realizing it, I don't know. But I mean, as far as I can remember my whole adult life, for the most part, I think I have been that way. But it's funny, there are so many things, though, I think I do like to have in control, in order to be that way. So, for example, I like, and again, this kind of goes along with like my health and wellness routine. I like to get my good night's sleep. I like to get up early and drink my water, have my supplements, have my breakfast. I like a lot of things. I like my house to be in order. I feel so much better. I mean, I've been that way my whole life. I remember even in college, I had to have my room perfectly clean before I could sit and study. Like I was always like that. So I think I guess it's sort of a combination. Like I like certain things to be in control, and I like to feel in control with certain things so I can be comfortable with that unknown.
Fair enough. Many truths at once.
Yes, exactly. I mean, more than one thing can exist at one time, right?
Exactly. I love that. So this begs the question, knowing all the things that you know now, what would you do all over again?
Oh, wow. There's so many things. But I would do my kids' childhoods all over again. Not because I want their lives to be any different or anything like that. I just want to experience it again. I want to experience it. I'm going to like cry even right now to saying that. I'm going to blame perimenopause for that. Like I literally can't even talk about that without getting choked up, because I know, oh my God, I didn't know I was going to do that. Woo! Okay. No, because I really do. I think it's like, okay, so maybe also this is because my daughter's going to graduate high school this year and I'm in the middle of the college application process. So maybe I have like that, oh my God, I'm going to be an empty nester and this whole stage of life is over. So I don't know, maybe that's why, or maybe it's perimenopause, who knows? Anyway, or maybe it's just me. I always get emotional about my children. But when I think about their child, it just goes so fast. And it's truly, to me, when I think about just, raising them from birth till my son's 21, he's not living at home at the moment. And like I said, my daughter's going to graduate. I just think it just goes so fast. And it was just an amazing period of life. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be many more amazing experiences as they're, grow older. But I will say those experiences when they're babies, when they're 8, when they're 10, I loved it. And I would just love to have a little bit more of that. Not because it wasn't amazing and fulfilling the first time. It's just that I'd love a little more of it. I just think it goes really fast. And again, I know some people might think I'm absolutely crazy for that, but it's definitely my truth.
Is there something that you would, if you had the chance to do this all over again with your kids, right? Like raise them all over again. Is there something that you wish you could do that you didn't get a chance to the first time around?
So I think some of this has to, I was building my business when I was raised, when they were young. And it was, it was go, go, go. I was running from doing TV to doing something with brands to running to my office to seeing clients. And it was just this constant whirlwind. And then I was, for part of that time when they were young, I was going through a divorce and there was just so much going on always. And it's funny, I actually say I have a really great group of girlfriends that I met when my daughter was in nursery school. And I sometimes say to them, how did you guys become friends with me? I was so awful in my own world and stressed out between getting divorced and building a business and running all other financial stress, so much stuff going on. And that's a whole other story. But how'd you become friends with me? And I think I probably did a better job at being present and being focused than I'm giving myself credit for when I look back on it. But my memory of it is just, it was a little more chaotic and a little more, and a little busier than I would have wanted. So if I were to do it all over again, I would probably have just slowed things down a little bit. There's a lot of things we all want to do in our careers, and there's a lot of, opportunities you don't want to miss. And there's a balance, and I'm all for that, going and conquering your own dreams while you're raising a family. But I probably would have just slowed down a little bit and not tried to, conquer the world. Because not that I ever did, no one ever does, right? I wouldn't have tried to do as much and build. And I guess I was doing a lot of it because I had to. I really had no choice. Also, I was also, needed to do certain things for my children. So I needed to do those things for work. It wasn't just because I wanted to, it was both. But I probably would have found a way to just slow down and be a little more present. I do think I got better at that when my kids were a little bit older, because I think when they were probably middle school or maybe even a little bit before that, I think I had that moment of, oh my God, how did we get here so fast? They were just babies. How did we get here? I say no. I still say no. I'm starting to, now I'm again, my daughter's 18. I'm okay, I should start saying yes to things again and going out and doing things again. I feel like I said no. I literally just really just stopped doing anything that absolutely was not absolutely necessary to do.
And what I think I'm hearing you say is that you don't need to conquer Rome in a day, right? It doesn't need to all be done at once. And we have this, maybe it's the type A personality where we feel like we have to do everything at once or we're going to miss the opportunity. I'm starting to sort of realize that there's a time and a season for everything.
100%.
And I never fully grasped that before. So the outcome is beautiful no matter what. But it's also a cautionary tale of, okay, it goes by quickly. So be in it as much as you can possibly be.
That's what I always say, when people ask me, younger moms that are entrepreneurs especially, I always say, it goes really fast. And yes, there are those things, you are going to miss some things. And that doesn't mean to just, say no to every work opportunity. Absolutely not. But really be diligent about the opportunities you say yes to. Be really diligent about how you spend your time. And I know it's so much easier said than done, but it's just, you will really thank yourself, I think, as your kids get older.
So speaking of starting all over again, you sold your company and then bought it back.
Yes, it was a crazy situation. So I built the business, my media side of my business, as well as my nutrition certification business. And both of those were actually acquired together right during COVID, actually.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was during the beginning of COVID. And then I worked for that company for a couple of years. And so actually many people didn't even realize, because to the world and to my students, I was still doing the same things, but I was working for this other company, and there was many things behind the scenes that changed. They got a new CEO, many things happened at that company, and things weren't going to evolve the way I had anticipated and the way that was outlined in the acquisition agreement that I had made. So I said, I'm going to take this moment and this opportunity to take the company back.
Was that insane to work for your own company, but not yourself?
That was actually good timing.
Interesting.
I had, it'd been about 20 years since I'd been an entrepreneur and had my own business. It was COVID. I had been going, as we just talked about, for many years, working, parenting, building, all these different ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. And I was really ready for this change. I think sometimes when people sell their business to a larger business, everybody says, oh, you're not going to like how they do this and how they do this. And I kind of went in with the attitude of, I'm good with however you do anything. I mean, not to that extreme, of course, but I went in eyes wide open. I was very happy to have other people take over things and to not have sort of what felt like the weight of the world on my shoulders. So it was good timing for me because I think I was burnt out. I had done a lot of the things with my business that I wanted to do, and I wanted to go to this next level with this other company. So again, I was happy to kind of give up the reins a little bit. And I also think that I went in, like I said, with eyes wide open, knowing there are going to be things that I don't like how they do them. I know that, but the pros outweigh the con. And I know that, but I also am going to gain all of this other stuff over here, even though I might not like this stuff over here. So that was sort of I went in really aware of that. So I was okay with all that until sort of the stuff over here that I didn't like what was going on went too far. And then I was like, okay, no, I've got to stop this. I want to get my brand back. I want to do it the way I want to do it again. And that's been a really crazy experience.
What's amazing to me is that you were able to buy your brand back. I can think of 3 other instances with other large brands where the owner, CEO, founder sold their actual name.
I did.
Just like you did.
Yep.
But had a hard time and were not, in many instances, able to buy their brand back without a ton of legal issue or at all. So how did that happen that you were able to buy it back?
Because of the changes going on at this company, there were certain things they were not doing that they were supposed to do. So it was sort of this mutual, we're not doing that anymore. So then I had the opportunity to say, well, if you're not doing that, this agreement isn't what it was supposed to be. Amazing. So let's cut ties.
And they were okay with that.
Obviously, like anything, there were difficult conversations. There was legal, there was, lawyers involved, and it took some time. It took a few months, but we ended up making it happen, I think, without too much pain.
And I'm just so impressed that was able to happen because, as I mentioned, I know so many instances, these other 3 instances where it was hard. It still is hard.
But it's funny.
So
I actually heard that when I was doing this, it's funny. I spoke to a few people that mentors and people and advisors of mine who I was telling the story to, and they would say, oh yeah, of course, small business, sell to a bigger business, and then 9 out of 10 times they take it back. Like it seemed like very commonplace, which I did not realize. When I sold, I was like, I am done. I am done running and operating this. I wanted to continue to grow, and I want to be there for my students, and I want to be of service to my students, and I want to contribute to the world in some way that's impactful. But I don't need to be running this anymore. I was actually surprised to hear that it was as common. I wasn't aware of that. Maybe I should have been, but I wasn't.
Would you ever recommend to anyone to sell their name?
I think it absolutely depends on I think it just depends on the situation. Listen, legal agreements and contracts and acquisitions can be done there's a million and one ways, right? To do that. Yeah. So there's always ways to create a contract and a acquisition agreement that you're happy with, even if your name is involved, right? There's always ways to create. I think
that's
you
the
have to
key.
be creative, right? And you need people looking out for you and protecting you, people that have done this before, your lawyers, advisors, thinking of things that you might not be thinking of and what might come up in 10 years that you may be unhappy with it. You need a clause in there for that. And what about that? But there's always ways to do it in a way that you could be happy with. I think it just depends. So I don't think it's a yes or no answer.
It sounds like the key is to really make sure that you cover all of your bases contractually.
Absolutely.
We're talking a lot about the subject of starting all over again. What would you recommend to people who are starting all over again and in it about what life is like after divorce?
Oh, gosh. Wow.
That was a big pivot.
I'm going to say two things that are going to sound completely contradictory to one another, but I think they're both true.
Okay.
I think one, when you're in that divorce mode and you're going through it, it's so heavy, even if it's amicable. And I had a really pretty amicable divorce. I think even if it's amicable, it's heavy, right? It's heavy emotionally, no matter what. And it's also just difficult. Even if it's amicable, and many divorces aren't, there's a lot of things to be worked out. And so it weighs on you in so many different ways: time, emotional energy, finances. There's so many things that weigh on you, right? So it's a big storm. So I will say that when you get through that, it feels like a weight off your shoulders in the sense that you can now move forward and you feel like you're seeing rainbows and sunshine and like, okay, now I'm through it, because it was just a storm. Even if you didn't want the divorce, right? I think many people, when it's finally done, then they feel like they're moving forward. And then especially when people meet someone new and it's like rainbows and sunshine and stars and like the next chapter in life. And there are amazing second chapters out there, third chapters, fourth chapters, right? But I also think people need to remember too, like, it's not just like you get through this craziness and then, okay, life's all perfect. I got through that and now life is, because I think sometimes people think that then it's all like, then you meet someone or just life falls into place because you went through this tough thing. And I think they don't remember that life is always hard. And life is amazing and incredible. And there's so many good things, but life is still hard.
Yes.
And so the reason I say that is not to be negative about, oh, things don't get better. They do. But if you have this, like, I think people put a lot of weight of this, I got to get through this and then it's all going to be great. And then it's sort of, they get through it and then they're not necessarily in that beautiful next chapter. Because again, life is still life. Like, you're always working on yourself. You're always evolving. You're always growing. There's always good days and there's always bad days. And so I think just sort of being aware of that. And again, maybe that sounds too simple, like, and maybe people do know that, but I guess based on some of the conversations I've had with people when they're in it, it's almost like they put a lot of weight on that, like, what it's supposed to be like when they're through it. And I think that we have to remember that you're always evolving and growing and have to be taking kind of stock of where you are and how you need to grow and all that.
So what I was hearing was there's a lot of sometimes expectation to sort of get through the storm.
Yes.
Expectation, what can be. Do you think that a lot of people sort of neglect to grieve the process and just go straight to the hope to just try to get through it? What is your take? Is there a grief kind of process of it?
Well, it's actually interesting you should say that. I always say that I never grieved, not because there wasn't anything to grieve. There was, for sure. Because again, no matter whether you want the divorce or you don't want a divorce, it's still something that is ending. It's still something to grieve. And I think I went kind of back to what we were saying originally. Like, I was like, I have to take care of my kids. I have to take care of my business. I've got to go for it. So I sort of went right into that. Like, I need to full steam ahead, take care of my kids, be there for them as much as possible, grow my business. And it was just like, boom, straightforward. So that's absolutely something I don't think I probably didn't take enough time to do. And I know you weren't asking this exactly, but I'm just saying, I know if I were to do that over again, I probably would have taken care of myself emotionally a little bit more there. I don't think I took the time to take care of myself during that time at all. It was just like kids and then work, and that's it.
Survival.
Yeah, totally.
You had to.
Right.
I wonder, when you were saying, to the effect of the hope, the expectation of the hope and just moving on, if sometimes people just think like, if I don't think about that, it'll just go away. I don't know. I just feel like in a different version of a life experience that I've had in the last couple years. Just, losing loved ones.
Right.
I think I've come to acknowledge that every process of an ending, there's some level of grief. And to me, I would say
absolutely.
Divorce would be one of those.
Oh, yeah. And not to compare a business to a divorce or to losing a loved one at all. I think the same thing can be said for, we were talking about selling a business that has been your baby too. Like I said, I was in a place where you asked me that question, like I was really ready for that. But I think sometimes people aren't, and that can be really difficult. Sometimes people aren't necessarily ready to part with those things. So I was just bringing that full circle because it just reminded me of that part of the conversation.
Yes, well, it absolutely is, right?
And you kind of need to take care of yourself emotionally through that too.
It's an extension of you,
right?
Particularly when it's your own brand. So I have so many questions, or had so many questions around that, right?
I feel like this conversation is fully like it's all connecting though to these things. The starting over, grieving, business, life. It's like it all is connecting, right?
Everything is connected. Right. It's incredible.
Like nutritious life.
Yes, like nutritious life.
Like the pillars of a nutritious life. It's all connected.
So let's talk about that for a moment. So
that wasn't even an intentional segue there, friends.
No, but I want to talk to you about this. Okay. So let's jump in. So was there an aha moment for you when you thought, okay, I love what I do and I am going to create Nutritious Life Studio to teach the teachers of nutrition to spread the word? Like, what was the aha moment?
Well, there were actually a few. So one, when I started my business, I created this big binder. I mean, this is 2002 when I first started my private practice. Like I was pregnant with my son. So basically my whole pregnancy with him was my first year of my business. I created this binder literally because you don't learn in school how to really coach, how to counsel, I had my master's in clinical nutrition, but I didn't have, again, most of the coaching and counseling skills. I didn't have the business skills. I didn't know anything about building a business. So I created this big binder that was literally like, this is what you do in session 1 with a client. This is what you do in session 2. And these are my, legal documents. And this is all of my marketing, how you do your marketing and all of that. And I literally used it as my own sort of guide for myself. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to have other dietitians work for me. And then maybe I can, and I don't know why I thought of this, but I did even that long ago. I always had this entrepreneurial mindset. And I was like, then I want to take this whole philosophy. So not just what I do in each session, but that whole 8-pillar nutritious life philosophy and share it with other people at some point and get it out there and license it. Or like, I remember thinking about that. Anyway, I hired dietitians. And I used that binder to educate them and to train them in my practice. But again, I'd already even thought about like expanding in a bigger way. So then fast forward, I was doing lots of media, I was writing books, and I would have dietitians call me, send me emails. Hey, I'm a dietitian in Iowa and I really want to build a business. Can I get on the phone with you? Can you share with me how you're doing it? How did you build it? And I would get those emails a lot or a pretty good amount. And I would think to myself, that's kind of like what I wanted to do. I wanted to take that binder and share it. And then I was sitting down one day. I was in LA. I was doing a YouTube show for Demand Media at the time. This was probably 2013. Yeah. And I sat down with someone that I knew from my Rodale days. He'd worked at Men's Health. And he's like, so what do you really want to do? And I told him, well, I've always had this dream of this show. And then I want to do this and I want to do this other book and I'm doing this. And then I goes, but I have something I really want to do that really is like in my heart that I want to do. And I told him this idea that I want to take this philosophy, what I've been doing in my private practice and get it out to other dietitians in the world so that they wouldn't have to start from, square one. They could have all that knowledge and they could help more people. And we together could help more people, reach more people, help them raise their nutrition. And he's like, why don't you do it? I'm like, well, I've talked to some people. I don't know, really. Don't I have to find this type of a partner or that? And he said, online education, just do it. And I was like, okay. So literally, I think it was like a couple months later, I was filming a show 5 days a week for 3 weeks. It was called Cook Your Ass Off. It was on HLN. It only had one season. It was by the producers of Chopped. It actually was, I don't know if you know this, it was a healthy version of Chopped. So I said, okay, I was the nutritionist host on it. Anyway, so I said, okay, when that's over, let's do it. Let's film it. So it literally ended on a Friday. That Monday, for the next week, I filmed what was the first version of my certification course. And then when I launched it, I decided, why am I just making this available to dietitians? There are so many incredible health practitioners out there that are not dietitians or career changers, people that want to go into this field. Why shouldn't they learn from a dietitian? And so anyway, if you are a dietitian, I think you know, you do get 62 of your 75 continuing ed credits. But if you're not a dietitian, you absolutely can do the program and you get other continuing ed credits if they make sense for you and your other certifications. And I'm so happy I did that, by the way, because our community, as you know, also is made up of so many interesting people from all kinds of careers and backgrounds. And I think that's what makes it so rich with just the knowledge and the support that people can give one another.
I mean, I became certified not because I was in the world, but I actually was looking for information on how to fuel and really understand my nutritional goals and, quite frankly, demystify fertility.
Right.
That was my issue.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, there's nothing out there. There's the government telling me that there's the 5 food groups, and this is ludicrous. And I started questioning things.
Right.
And then I found your program.
How did you find it, by the way?
I found your program online.
Wow.
You know, I was because I was working full time in corporate America.
Good SEO.
Right? Exactly. Great SEO. And this was early on because there wasn't a whole lot in the world on fertility. I wanted to control the uncontrollables because everything, if I always worked hard enough at it, it would just happen. And this was the one thing, fertility, that I couldn't get. I couldn't get pregnant, and I couldn't understand why.
Talk about emotional and frustrating and difficult. I mean, that's so hard.
It was so hard. But everything else, if I worked hard enough, I could get there. In my, personal, professional life, it was always, I just cared and it would work, you know? But when it came to fertility, it wasn't working. And then I started to think, well, what can I do that I'm not doing? And I was a road warrior. I was constantly on the road and I was really skinny. So it didn't matter what I ate at the time. I didn't have to think about hormones yet.
Right.
I was thinking, or maybe I should have, but I was thinking like in terms of, well, I'm not gaining weight.
Right.
I need
Which so many people at that age, if you're not overweight and you're eating whatever, you think, oh, well, I'm not gaining weight, I'm okay.
Right.
But weight is, as we know, not the only marker at all for being healthy.
But I didn't even know the foundation about how to actually take care of myself on a nutritional level. Like I really thought that, oh, okay, if I eat a lot of protein, doesn't matter what kind of protein, then I am fine. And then I started looking around to see, okay, well, the actual fertility treatments aren't working. Maybe there's a part that I can play in this beyond acupuncture. Like what can I do beyond the medications, beyond the acupuncture? And then I thought, oh, well, maybe it's diet and lifestyle. And maybe it's not doing Tracy Anderson every single day, which is so hardcore on my body. Maybe it's not eating all the things and honestly drinking as much as I was drinking, right? And there was cocktails involved all of the time for both business and personal. So I found your course, I took it, and it wasn't even necessarily that it's super focused on fertility at the time, but it gave me the construct to say, oh, and then I can do this. And there was some nuggets at the time. And I know since then it's been built out even further, which is so cool. But I remember thinking, this is the start of something. And I learned so much. I learned about glutathione, both in natural foods and supplements. That's huge, by the way. That's like in a fertility cocktail that comes from one of the best fertility clinics in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, CCRM.
Wow.
So now it is. It wasn't even there at the time. But like there's so many cool things that I learned from this process. And lo and behold, I did get pregnant eventually, which was amazing.
Amazing.
Right?
Absolutely unbelievable.
Right. That I believe was so eye-opening to me. Like, okay, wow. And then it became I'm not just going to do this because I'm trying to get pregnant. This is a way of life.
Yes, which I love hearing.
And that was so great. And then when I started to get burnt out in the corporate space and I wanted to not travel all of the time and spend time with my daughter and not be on a plane, train, or driving some crazy distance, I was able to take a step back and say, okay, well, what do I want to do next? And then I just pivoted into health and wellness marketing consulting.
Which is so great, right? Because you combine, and that's again, as I was saying with our community, what I think is so cool, there's so many people that take their past lives of work and then marry it with this new certification that they've gotten, even if they're a complete career changer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you do this incredible masterclass. And I love it because you can really connect with so many people live.
Good.
Tell me about your upcoming.
So Masterclass is a 2-day in-person event that we do once a year. And I always say it's sort of a summit meets mastermind meets retreat, in the sense that it's a summit in the sense that we have incredible world-renowned speakers that come in all day, each day. It's a mastermind in the sense that it's people that are already in the community together. So they know each other to some extent, some of them from live Zooms or just from our online private group we have. So they have some connection to each other. So there's this networking and workshopping together. And then it's retreat-ish in the sense that we have incredible food. We all stay in the same hotel. There's some workouts and movement and breath work involved. So it really is sort of this all-encompassing, incredible 2 days where I think people gain so much from the networking that goes on, so much from just inspiration and motivation from the speakers and from each other, and just so much knowledge gained from the education, and that people leave there, I think, feeling so inspired personally, and then also so inspired for their businesses. And I feel like every year people leave and they're crying going home like, I don't want to go. This is so good.
It's an amazing program. And the togetherness of it is just awe-inspiring. Yes. I have taken away from that great friendships.
Yeah, you've been twice, right?
I've been twice. Yeah. To both New York, Brooklyn, and in the city. It's amazing. So delving a little deeper into nutrition.
Yes.
A couple of things. So I recall that at one point you worked at a cheese shop, which is curious.
That's so funny. By the way, when you asked me, what do people not know about you? Again, I was like, I don't know. I feel like I'm an open book to people that know me. But you're right. That's something that people that don't know me wouldn't know. I did work in a cheese shop. That was my very first job.
And so how do you feel about dairy and cheese in particular now?
But it's so funny. I literally laugh when I think about that job. I worked with my two best friends in high school summer after 10th grade.
Where was this? Because now it's
Massachusetts, in Weston, Massachusetts. It was a little tiny cheese shop in my hometown. I mean, I lived in this tiny little New England town, a dry town. In the center of town, there was 2 drugstores, a hardware store, a grocery store. I mean, it was like nothing, and a little cheese shop. And I worked in the little cheese shop.
My gosh. So tell me about your
my
views
take on dairy.
Oh, well. And let's delve into gluten too while we're at it, because these are the two sort of, they've been complicated and misunderstood and so I want to hear.
So I'll try to keep it really pretty simple, because I think people complicate the dairy gluten conversation a lot. So first of all, it is not hell yes or hell no for anyone. It is all depends on the individual. Whether or not you can handle dairy or gluten, it's going to be individual. So I am not just going to say that for everybody, and I'm not just going to say it's right for everybody.
Sure.
It is absolutely individual. When it comes to dairy, let's just start there. If dairy works for you and it doesn't cause you a problem, I am a big fan of high quality dairy. That doesn't mean multiple times a day, but incorporating it into your diet is, I think, absolutely fine for many different reasons. And when I say high quality, like good grass-fed cheese. Pecorino cheese, by the way, has something called C15, which is a saturated fatty acid. It's an essential fatty acid that has been newly discovered. That's sort of a side note. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent there, but so pecorino is actually one of my favorites. But good grass-fed cheese, again, if you don't have a problem with dairy, it's a great way to get in certain nutrients that you might not otherwise get: calcium, protein, C15, as I just mentioned. But also, it's very satisfying. So you have a little bit of that on, let's say, a big, delicious, vegetable-filled salad, that meal is going to be more satisfying. Forget about enjoyable, which is also great. It's also going to be satisfying, which can ultimately help you make even better choices later in the day. So again, the calcium, the protein, some of those saturated fatty acids that actually have health benefits, good, high quality, I have no problem with. Again, like whole fat dairy, organic yogurt, grass-fed organic yogurt. You're also getting some probiotics, which we know is good for gut health. So, and it's just a great way to get in some protein. So that can be an excellent snack for people. So if dairy works for you, good, high quality, not only are they not bad for you, but they are really working for you and can contribute to your overall health. That said, if it doesn't work for you, there are plenty of ways to get in all of those nutrients you might be missing, but you just have to, be intentional about that.
So what is something that we need to know about fertility? And I'd also love to hear your thoughts on what you wish people knew about perimenopause and menopause.
We could do a whole podcast on this, but
Yes.
I'll try to keep it simple here. I think what you were saying about your own journey is probably the most important thing for people to know about fertility. What you were saying was you were eating whatever you wanted because you were maintaining your weight. So who cares what you ate, right? You weren't focused on the nutrient density. You weren't focused on getting in those whole real foods. You were maintaining your weight. So you were young and fit into your clothes. So who cares, right? And I think there's a lot of young people that are like this. As long as they're maintaining their weight, okay, they don't need to worry about their health so much. They're running around, traveling, stressed, busy, not getting enough sleep, drinking alcohol, all of those things, the stress, alcohol, not getting enough sleep, not having a healthy diet, all of those things are going to impact your fertility. I think that there's a lot of people out there, young people that think, okay, I'm fit. I go to the gym, 4 times a week. I eat healthy-ish, but they're drinking a lot. They're super stressed. They're overworked. They're not sleeping well. And those are the first things you've got to get in order. Like the way you were describing yourself, I was like, yes, there are many people that do still get pregnant in that state, but many people don't in that state. They have to calm their system. They have to get into a better place of managing their stress. They have to get more sleep. They have to eat whole real foods, including, by the way, whole fat dairy actually can be helpful for fertility. That is another, just to go back to the dairy conversation for a moment. They have to be getting in adequate nutrients, taking out some of those toxins and chemicals, whether it be from personal care products to food. So I think that that's the most important thing to do right off the bat. And then the other thing I always say with that is that many people don't focus on fertility until the moment they want to get pregnant. And really, you have to think ahead and you have to prepare your body ahead, not only for like your nutrient stores in your body, like folic acid, for example, that we know is important during the first trimester. Not only do you want to have, adequate stores of that, but for men, just for your body in so many different ways, like you're not going to get yourself to that state in a day. Like I was just saying, to this place of sleeping better, having better stress management, eating whole foods for 3 days and trying to get pregnant. That's not going to work. Like you have to sort of prepare your body. And I think people try to make the shift like the minute they want to get pregnant. I think you have to really think ahead, which is really why we need to be thinking about our nutrition from birth. Like it's not like all of a sudden, so many people don't start thinking about it until there's a problem. Either they're overweight, maybe they can't get pregnant. They find out they have high cholesterol. And really, in order to live optimally and for things to happen that we want to happen, like getting pregnant, we have to be doing these things all the time. It just has to be part of our lifestyle, like you mentioned as well.
Absolutely. I remember having an aha moment when I realized that there was a 90 to 120 day cycle in which you have the ability to sort of maintain egg health and not expose it to all the free radicals that are happening in your body. You're born with all the eggs you're ever going to have, and the quality is what it is. However, you have the ability to maintain it at its best possible point within the 90 to 120 day point before you release that particular egg, which was mind blowing to me. Also, if you're going through fertility treatments. So knowing that, you already have to start ahead. So to your point, I wish we talked about these things in schools.
The thing that I think is good though is I do think that people now are more aware of their nutrition at a younger age. I do think, I mean, and I don't know if you've seen, but I think the memes are so funny when you see some of these memes on social media of, you know, girls in college with their water bottles going to Pilates and their green juices. And the meme is like, I didn't even drink water for 4 years, let alone work out or whatever. I mean,
it's true.
I'm not, you know, and it's so true. Like, I think that younger people are definitely more aware of their nutrition and wellness. However, on the flip side, there's also more toxic chemicals in our world and environment.
Makeup and otherwise.
All these, I mean, and just, everywhere. So as much as I think people are more aware and they're doing things, we're kind of fighting a little bit more of an uphill battle because of our environment.
And we have to make better choices, from cleaning products and supplies, the makeup,
personal care,
skincare, all of these things.
Fragrances are a big one.
I think people need to start familiarizing themselves with the idea of endocrine disruptors and what those are, and start reading labels and, quite frankly, shopping the outside of a grocery store, you know? So, but I feel like the next movement of knowledge and education is becoming understanding perimenopause and menopause. I feel like it's quite the mystery to me. I would love to know what we should know about peri and menopause.
So again, this is a whole podcast in itself. I mean, or a whole podcast series, or a whole
definitely
whatever. I mean, there's so much to talk about here. But again, trying to make this a little bit simple, probably the most important thing, or the one thing I would say, the starting thing that people should know is that I always say it's not like rungs of a ladder. Like, you're in puberty, you're now in your fertile years, you're now perimenopause, you're now menopause. Our hormones are constantly shifting, right? It's this. So with perimenopause, that's something that can happen over a decade. So even though you might not think of yourself as being perimenopausal, maybe you're 40, maybe you're 42 and you're young, and maybe you just had a baby a couple years earlier and you feel amazing and young, but maybe certain things feel a little different. Maybe you get a little more tired. Maybe you're a little more irritable. You might be perimenopausal and you just might not think of yourself like that, but your hormones are starting to shift. So it's not like this big, all of a sudden, they all just change. It's this slow shift, and it can go on for a decade. It's a full period of time of a woman's life. So I think that oftentimes we think, oh no, I can't be perimenopausal. I could still get pregnant right now. I'm young. I'm this, but we absolutely could be shifting in that period, because again, it's just a shift. Things are changing. Hormones are changing. And so it can last a long time. So the reason I'm saying that is that I think that I want people to know that is, don't write off certain things because you think, oh, I'm only this age, or I still get my period regularly. I still did, and that you just want to be aware of those things, because there's things you can do to take care of yourself. And you might need to focus on taking care of yourself a little bit more to help balance those hormones so you do feel better. And then, of course, there's other things that you can then do as you shift further into it, whether it's supplements, whether it's HRT. So that's something I just think people should know. I mean, I'm 51. I get my period like clockwork, and I can tell you I am very perimenopausal, but I still got my period like clockwork. I mean, it's different for everyone. That doesn't mean, and there are things that have shifted. And then menopause is just that one day. It's just when you're in menopause, when you have gone through, when you've had 12 months without having a period. We have 12 months of missed menstruation. So that day is menopause, and then you're postmenopausal. That's it. So it's really, perimenopause can be this long period of time. Then you have a year without menstruation, and you then are menopause and then postmenopausal, and you're in a different stage. Those are, again, some basics that I think some people don't realize. And I think the menopause conversation has become a big one. And I'm so happy about that, because I think there's so many more resources out there now. Actually, one of our amazing Nutritious certified students just wrote a menopause book.
Amazing.
Yeah, I just got it. Maria Claps from Wise and Well. Yeah, she's another one of our amazing grads. I love our grads doing all these amazing things. Podcasts, books, amazing.
What is a resource or something that women that are going through peri should know?
A resource. So I would say, actually, you know what? I'm going to give her a shout out. Go to Wise and Well on Instagram. They've got lots of information. Again, she's a Nutritious Life certified grad, and they have, her and her partner have a ton of incredible information on perimenopause.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And from a nutritional standpoint, is there anything that we should be doing to support our bodies?
Yeah. So whenever I tell people this, I always almost feel bad that there isn't something more dramatic, like right away, like people want a magic bullet for this time period. But what I say, again, this is over when you're talking, and you know, I'm all about like personalization and it all depends on the individual when it comes to nutrition and their lifestyle. But as in general, I would say that when people are shifting in this perimenopausal stage of life, I always say you've got to double down on all the things you were supposed to be doing for many, many years. And what I mean there is, you know, you're supposed to be hydrating properly, but are you really?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're supposed to drink less alcohol, but are you really? Like, you know, you're supposed to be getting in protein, high quality protein consistently throughout the day. But have you been doing that? Have you been weight training? You know, or have you just been going to SoulCycle, or have you actually been weight training to build muscle mass, which is so important for our metabolic health and for maintaining our maintaining our weight, but also just for our overall, again, metabolic health and for reducing sarcopenia, which is muscle loss. So all of those things that we really, you know, are you focusing on your sleep hygiene? Have you, you know, are you really working on it? Or are you just kind of like lying down in the bed and passing out each night? Or are you doing those things to wind down, to help yourself get into a deeper sleep? So sort of all of those things that we talk about with Nutritious Life and those pillars, yes, you want to focus on some of them a little bit more, like I was talking about, like protein and weight training and all of that. But in general, it's really all of the things we should all be doing when we're 20 and thinking about getting pregnant are the things we just have to focus in on a little bit more when we're in that perimenopausal stage. And again, it's not a magic bullet, but when you do all of those things and you're more intentional about all of them and you do them all a little bit better and a little more consistently, you can see a lot of major results. That does not mean that you're not going to need some forms of supplementation. That does not mean that you're not going to need HRT for some people, for many people, but it is a good start. And if you are taking supplements, I mean, maybe it's creatine. I mean, there's lots of different supplements that I think are really beneficial during this time. I'm a big fan of creatine during this time, and many other supplements as well, actually. But if you're not doing the basics and you're not doing those things that what we call, again, the pillars of nutritious life, supplements and HRT are only going to be so helpful. I mean, they can still be helpful, don't get me wrong, especially HRT, but you've really got to lay that good foundation first. And for many people, that can be enough for many years, especially in the beginning stages of perimenopause.
So I know a little bit about your beliefs on diets. We are all on a diet, right? We need a diet to survive. Yeah. We've had this discussion before. What is your view on the keto diet for perimenopause, knowing that protein is such an important fundamental block for peri, as I'm learning?
Yeah.
What is your view on the whole keto
I'm not
situation?
a fan of that, especially for perimenopause.
Okay.
No, because I think we need carbs for our brain health. We need carbs for energy. We need carbs for our serotonin, to make serotonin. We need, so especially like even carbs at night can be helpful because they can help release serotonin, which is calming and can be helpful for our sleep. And we know during that period, sometimes our cortisol gets out of whack, our stress hormone, and that rises actually a little bit more, that 3 o'clock time period. And that's why many women wake up at 3 a.m. So I would not suggest a keto diet. That doesn't mean I would suggest a high carb diet. That doesn't mean I would suggest a diet, especially with refined carbs. Absolutely not. I wouldn't say never. Maybe there's a rare occasion, but for most women, I would not suggest a keto diet during this period.
So a balanced diet.
Yeah.
With high quality protein.
High quality protein. Protein is absolutely key during this time period.
Okay. What is something on the nutritional front that is blowing your mind right now?
hinted at this when I talked about pecorino cheese. So C15 is an essential fatty acid that has recently been discovered, the first one in, I think it's 90 years that it's been, I think it was the first one in 90 years. So we think essential fatty acids, we think omega-3s. So this is an essential fatty acid, similar in the sense that it's an essential fatty acid like omega-3s, but it's a saturated one. But it is a type of saturated fat that is actually very important for our overall health and so that I'm very fascinated with. And actually there is this supplement that I'm a big fan of called Fatty 15. And it's important for so many reasons. And again, basically what this saturated fatty acid does is it protects our cells. So we think of it as our cells, especially as we age and they're more fragile, this saturated fatty acid sort of protects our cells. So think of it as really just like this armor around our cells. And 1 in 3 people are actually deficient in C15. And so it's called cellular fragility syndrome. That was also just discovered, this deficiency, which is the first one, I think the first deficiency to be discovered in 75 years. Remember, we learned about scurvy.
Yes.
Right. So this is a new deficiency that was just discovered. And yeah, I've worked with the founders of actually the only pure C15 product, which is called Fatty 15. And I'm actually a big fan of them because of their incredible research. And there's just study after study coming out now on it. And it's really fascinating. I just think we're going to be learning a lot. We're going to be hearing a lot more about it. So I feel like that's kind of on the forefront.
That's exciting. So Fatty 15.
Yeah.
I do not buy any of my supplements on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Can you find Fatty 15 online?
Yeah, you can just go to their website, Fatty 15.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I don't even think they are on Amazon, but I agree with you. Don't buy your supplements on Amazon.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
What is something that we should know about you that we don't?
I actually love candy. I don't eat it a lot, but I love candy. And I think people, like, I'll have like a bite of candy. Some people are like, what? I actually love candy. And I know that's so random and that is not deep. That is not profound. But I am just sharing that because I feel like people are always shocked. But I don't eat it a lot. But I love candy, especially black licorice. Just a random little fun fact.
As a nutritionist, that is definitely
just a random thing. Just a random thing. Yeah, just a random thing. And chocolate chip cookies. What else don't people know? I love change. That's something that maybe people don't know. I think a lot of people don't like change. I'm actually one of those people that love change. I love change. I don't know. I think it's one of the reasons I like being an entrepreneur. Is because I kind of like the unknown and I like change and I think for maybe also a little bit of a type A person that's a little incongruous with that personality. Sometimes people like to be in control and know everything what's happening. I actually, like I said, I like the unknown. It means that when you don't know everything that can happen, especially as being an entrepreneur, I guess to me, it's almost like anything could happen in a good way, right? You could think of it as a negative thing and it can be scary, but I always look at it as a positive thing, like anything amazing could happen tomorrow. You never know what's going to land in your inbox or in your phone, So anyway, those are just kind of some random things.
What are some parting words that you have for our guests today?
Oh, wow. That feels like a big, important question. Be intentional with how you're living your life with your health and wellness. Like, be really intentional with it. And I know that's probably trite, but it kind of seems like it goes along with our conversation today. Like, you can't just try to fix something overnight. You can't just, have the problem and then try to, like, again, fix it there's no magic bullet. It takes work. It takes thinking about all of these different pillars: stress, sleep. You don't have to do all of them every day. You don't have to focus on all of them every day. You don't have to be doing each one perfect all the time. There's times where your sleep might be really terrible and your stress might be bad, but focus on, how you're eating. But if you focus on all of those things and you're intentional about it from a young age, you're going to be in such a better position as you go through perimenopause and as you, get older and hopefully you are preventing, other chronic diseases.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge and for being here with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. This was so fun.
I'm so glad we did this.
So fun.